Hi, thanks for joining us today. Welcome to episode 3. I can't believe we're on episode 3 already, around empowering engineering learning. This is a joint live stream with Hachette Learning and FE News. My name is Gavin O'Mara, and today I'm joined by Tom. Hey, Tom, how are you?
Hi, Gavin. I'm very well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, that's totally cool. I think we've got a really cool show today, and looking through because Tom's done loads of background data and sort of cranking the numbers on this, and we've got a really interesting show for a couple of different reasons, really. Around engineering and empowering engineering is kind of key, because I didn't realise, but it's a $1.9 trillion industry. So supporting that is kind of important, not only for the UK economy, but also for the global economy. UK economy, 6.3 million people, or 19% of all jobs in the UK are in engineering or engineering related sectors. And it's predicted to be one of the fastest growing occupations between now and 2030. And there's a number of reasons behind that. We're addressing net zero, renewable energy, advanced robotics. I think it's going to be really key for the future of work. Infrastructure, the amount of infrastructure projects that are coming in from government priorities. We've got, unfortunately, global wars. There's going to be loads of engineering going to be needed around that. But we're just seeing this to be absolutely vital for the UK economy. But how do we empower engineering with blended learning? Tom, I don't know, you've had a little look at how many vacancies and what the data is looking like around that as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Gavin. So I think obviously really, really important for the UK as a sector. And obviously engineering jobs make up a significant proportion of the total jobs in the UK. But similarly, number of vacancies account for 1 in 4 of those job adverts that are currently live in the UK. So there's a massive skill shortage in the sector. We have seen a 55% increase in job adverts for green engineering roles, and similarly 48% increase in adverts mentioning green skills. So there's a real need to upskill the existing workforce, fill those jobs, and kind of meet that need within the sector. So up to 725,000 new jobs are needed within the sector to support that transition to net zero. So yeah, a really, really strong demand for a growing skilled workforce. So yeah, Engineering UK have done loads of research into this, and they've found that 85% of STEM teachers would recommend a career in engineering. And there is an even split between teachers recommending either a university degree or an apprenticeship route as the best way to get into the sector. Thinking about the kind of apprenticeship particularly, the starts in engineering have really fluctuated over the last few years. So I think we're at an interesting and slightly tricky time for the sector. But numbers and starts are increasing at a higher rate than in other sectors. We've seen the level 2 engineering operative apprenticeship particularly growing up 300% in the past 5 years. But other level 2 starts are down quite significantly. So it's clear that there's more that needs to be done to solve that skills shortage within the sector. So yeah, really interesting time for engineering in the UK.
Yeah, no, definitely. And what's interesting is so many different routes into engineering. This is interesting that there's the balance now between academic, university-only route and apprenticeship, which is fantastic, job done. But there's many other routes, obviously, as well to go in. And we're also thinking about reskilling and upskilling as well of people. It's not just all these young people going in on one sort of linear route, is there? There's many ways to go with this. We've got 2 epic guests, which I'm going to bring in a moment. We've got Ella from Manchester College and Mark from Preston. This one I could bring in right now. So Mark, could bring into the studio. Hey Mark, how are you?
Good morning, Gavin. Good morning, Tom. Thanks for having me on.
Oh no, thank you, Mark, for joining us. And Ella, how are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having us, Gavin and Tom.
No problem at all.
College. Can I just firstly apologise? I've got a bit of a lingering cough, so I might cough throughout. So just want to apologise for my cough.
This is all, and we're live, everyone. So if anyone's got any questions for Ella and Mark, we'd love to be able to share those here. If we can't answer those, which I'm sure Mark and Ella have got and Tom have got all the ability to be able to answer these, we'll go away and find someone who can. So jumping into this, Ella, loads of interesting stuff, like those stats, kind of key. I think we're going to go into those in a little bit more. But what opportunities do you see around implementing blended learning to support young people into entering the engineering sector?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question, Gavin. As you know, blended learning is a very new, I would say, a future delivery model. And at the Manchester College, in particular for engineering, we do actually use a lot of blended learning to support our learners. How it supports our learners, it provides them with a wide range of different experiences, I would say, and different formats for them to adapt to, including obviously advanced technology. And in particular, in terms of engineering, it will prepare them to go into that digitalized future. As you know, engineering, it's all advanced technology, digitalized. So blended learning does help our learners to prepare them and adopt them. What we have noticed at the Manchester College in the engineering department is we do work with a whole wide range of employers and stakeholders. And our employers within the engineering industry are actually telling us that, right, you need to really prepare your students into the digitalized advanced technology formats. So that blended learning does fit really well into our curriculum because it does prepare our students in different, I would say, different environments, and also with regards to students. And I suppose blended learning came from, I don't know, kind of stem from like the COVID years, and it seems a long time ago. But if you think about it, you kind of remember from yesterday. And that kind of have actually introduced new ways and new delivery models for students to learn while remotely at home, etc. So blended learning does provide that wide opportunities for different learners, but also I would say students with different backgrounds, and also students who may have like mental health issues. It does actually provide that platform whereby they can still educate themselves remotely, etc., with the support of teachers.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Blended learning's been around. It feels like forever. I think all of my career that I've been in FE, which is like dark hair when we started out. But like, what's interesting is that since the COVID years, it's good that you've mentioned around like mental health and wellbeing support, because that's been like an ever increasing need and support.
Yeah. I mean, we found, I don't know whether Mark agrees with this, but we found at the Manchester College that we're here to support students from different backgrounds, and in terms of their mental health. We do have some students with mental health, not saying all of them, but we do, and we want to support students with mental health issues. And blended learning does really fit the bill because it does help the students to gain the confidence in getting back into education, getting back into teaching and learning, and that kind of help them to go back into college on a phased return. So it does really support our curriculum at the Manchester College.
Yeah, cool.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ella. I mean, there's a really interesting range of different scenarios there. Mark, at Preston College, what are you doing to integrate technology into teaching and learning, and how effective has that been in your view?
Yeah, but a wide range of options, really, Tom, in terms of integrating technology in teaching and learning. Engineering in terms of Lancashire is massive. It's responsible for nearly 90,000 people being employed, 40% of the workforce in Lancashire, and it's really important to our economy. £6 billion in terms of GVA to the local area. So we work with a lot of employers around ensuring we've got pathways from level 2 right up to higher level apprenticeship at level 4, and then work with higher education institutions to ensure the pathway of degree apprenticeship after that. I think we've learned over the years that integrating technology for teaching and learning is key in a number of things, really. Widening participation. Some people, we live in an era where travel to work, travel to learn is a big issue for people in modern society. And the more accessible we can make education, the more employer responsive we can be and shape different programs to meet different people's needs. Whether it's we use a college app that's integrated with our MAS system that aligns learners to manage the program, get key details and access learning management systems around teaching and learning and course content through Canvas and through our college app. I think small, subtle steps around linking Office 365 and the learner journey in one package through the college app really makes a seamless transition for learners to participate in education. It doesn't, I think, key things that we've learned at Preston College, it doesn't have to be an all singing, all dancing virtual learning environment that that learners can access. It's more about ensuring that learners have got a rounded overview of the program that can answer the teaching and learning journey. But there's just a couple of subtle things we do to ensure learners can participate from level 2 right to level 4 and really progress. But I think you mentioned level 2 apprenticeships have grown 300% at the start of the podcast, and for me that's really key around social mobility. I think we're really passionate around ensuring people can access at level 2, come to us in a study program and participate in blended learning models, like we've mentioned before, where they suit the individual learner's journey, but also when they get into employment, the employer's got that flexibility of accessing the course online, ensuring we can meet those skills needs.
Yeah, interesting. Like around that, you're saying around social mobility, but also really interested about how much engineering has got an impact for like the local economy. You know, like I didn't realise it was that high.
We've got a massive aerospace sector and manufacturing sector in Lancashire. It's well renowned in heritage for manufacturing in terms of textiles and, you know, in terms of rich heritage. So I think, you know, for us, it's a really important sector that we work closely with schools, secondary schools, and even in a couple of weeks, we've got primary schools coming in to engage in terms of engineering and STEM careers and net zero. And I think for us, it's inspiring people to be passionate about sustainability around the natural and built environment. And then they're the future people who can fix the problems that we face in today's world around power shortages, you know, and lack of energy efficiency, badly designed aspects, whether it's manufacturing or the built environment. So it's starting really, you know, secondary at primary level and inspiring them to go on those pathways from 2 to 4.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And you'd sort of lead into one of my questions actually around like different routes, but you know, engaging young people at primary has got to be key, isn't it? Around sort of just opening up eyes to be able to see where it's at. I remember, you know, it's one of the inspirations for World Skills has been started in Calgary around busing young people around Alberta to unlock ideas of routes. That's fantastic. You're doing that from such an early age. Can I ask around apprenticeship route? Because you're mentioning like entry level. What are your sort of views on apprenticeship route over university? I know you can sort of, you know, we're talking levels here, but how can a blended learning be able to assist with different ways to engage people? We talked about social mobility level 2, but how do we then keep that going from level 2 onwards? You know, how can blended learning help that?
Yeah, I think for me, the more direction of travel is in terms of definite level 2, 3, and 4. Learners have got a thirst for, you know, coming to college and accessing state-of-the-art workshops, skills sessions, research sessions, testing, you know, and engaging with some fantastic facilities that all FE colleges have. But in terms of some of the theory content, that we live in an age where information is at our fingertips and really accessible, we've got to deliver that in different ways and engage people, but also wrap it around, you know, the work balance. If employers, you know, need that person, you know, to be on a different program where they're not coming in on a day release model, or if it's a block or a blended learning model for apprenticeship, I think that's progressive. But it's about ensuring that we don't just deliver a dull, boring presentation, that learners really can access that information just at the tip of the fingertips. It's got to be progressive, inspiring, but knowledge that can really give them the energy to go on and do their own further research. So it's got to be the blend.
They've got to, can I just jump in there? They've got to be actively engaging, because when we do the blended learning for our learners, it's not a case of just jump on the computer and just go and do self-study. It's not really a case of that. We do actively engage with learners, so it could be a form of teachers then dial in with the student on Teams, etc., to actively engage in Q&As and summative assessments. So I totally agree where Mark's coming from.
Yeah, I mean, some good examples we've done. We did some in COVID, but after COVID as well, where there's been a live engineering project or a live construction site where we've managed to stream in terms of a class in and Q&A, a virtual walk around the site, and they're little easy wins that without organising an external trip, you can virtually zoom in, or like we're doing now, live in and access and and create real learning opportunities for people to ask questions. And I think that's the where blended learning can win. And like you've mentioned before, in terms of it's got to be managed and supported, and have that constant checking points from the people at the college or organisation managing that blended learning, because monitoring participation is key, but getting them to stick with, you know, accessibility is the other key.
Yeah, definitely. I know Hachette, we were saying probably episode 1 actually around looking at breaking up learning chunks as well, fit around to be able to make that so it's more accessible, so as people could, you know, absorb, you know, like sometimes massive long all day out sessions can be a bit overwhelming, can't they? You know, like you can like roll back and look at different bits. So I think that's really key as well. Sorry.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, that just kind of supports all the research that we're doing at Hachette. As you say, Gavin, bite-sized chunks of information and learning. You can do in classroom setting, a workshop setting, at home. It's a real mix of things that students need to be able to do. And yeah, we're just looking for ways to support that. But no, it's really interesting to hear the ways that you're trying to inspire learners from a very young age, and kind of looking at that progression and those routes to qualification. And we touched on the kind of that massive need to fill the skills gap. And related to that is the question of diversity. And engineering has a relatively low proportion of women in the workforce, around 15% as opposed to 56% in other occupations. And it has similarly low proportions of people from ethnic minority groups, lower socioeconomic backgrounds, and those with disabilities. And so, yeah, Ella, it'd be really interesting to hear at the Manchester College, how have you tried to address the challenge of diversity? What kind of things have you tried to do to kind of, address that question?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. In terms of EDI, I'm female. I'm from a ethnic minority culture. I also am the assistant principal looking after construction, engineering, automotive, logistics. So I kind of feel like I kind of fit the bill there. Joking aside, yeah, the Manchester College, diversity is one of our core values at the Manchester College, and we truly believe in, obviously, inclusion, learning, and including everybody from different ethnic minorities, diversity, disability, socioeconomic background, etc. So what we do, going back to what Mark have said about attracting the younger students, so we do tend to do a lot of that, like reaching out with our outreach team, reaching out to primary schools, secondary schools, bringing those students into college to experience engineering. Now, in terms of diversity and getting females into engineering, we do a lot of that. We celebrate International Girls in Engineering Day, which is on the 23rd of June, and working very closely with our employers. It has always nationally been an issue in terms of getting females into engineering. And for the Manchester College, we do a lot of promotion for that reason, in terms of doing lots of case studies. As you can see in the background, I've got a case study for a female ex-student in engineering. And it is a case of promoting girls in engineering, celebrating International Girls in Engineering Days. And by doing so, we also engage with employers, because a lot of employers do have the same issue, ironically. But I tap into and reach out to my employers who've got lots of like female leads, and they come in, they celebrate girls in engineering. In fact, we have got an event coming up on the 23rd of June, whereby my employers are coming in and doing a bit of a guest speaker role to encourage young girls into engineering. But those young girls come exactly from the primary schools, the secondary schools, female students to come in, have a taster session on engineering, to empower them to go into engineering, and to the fact that to identify what roles they could be getting into in engineering. Because what we found, a lot of secondary school kids, pupils who come into college, they have no fucking idea what engineering is. They just see engineering, male-dominated role. I can't do that. I can't be a welder. I can't do this, etc. But there's more to it, and it's all about career roles and responsibilities. So we work really closely with the Chamber, Manchester Chamber, and my employers to try and educate young people from secondary and primary school what the job roles are out there for engineering, because there's a wide variety of different job roles in engineering, as we all know, that young people are not aware of. they just kind of have the perception that it's a welder or it's somebody, an operator, etc. But they don't know that there's lots of different roles. As a result of that, in terms of all our engagement with girls into engineering, I would say our percentage of girls on our T-level DSP, design, surveying, planning, are quite significant, quite high. We've got about, I would say, at least 45% of girls in our T-level DSP, and that's proven a success because of all the hard work the Manchester College is doing to engage and to promote girls into engineering. And so we are quite, we have seen that success coming to fruition over the years.
Yeah, no, cool. Can I just bring in, as soon as Tom was about to ask the question, a question coming from Jill Scott, but I think I want to go into lead on something that you've just been talking about, Ella, because looking at diversity in engineering is absolutely key. But Jill was saying around, and I'm going to build on what Jill said as well, actually, around amount of access learning at 11 o'clock at night. Obviously, your average lecturer doesn't want to be around like teaching at 11 o'clock at night. But I think it is absolutely key that we bring learning to the learner when they're able to engage, and then build on those foundations in college. So thank you, Jill. Sorry I couldn't drop it in earlier. Can I ask everyone, like, Ella's raised a really important point around trying to engage different groups, so like women. Thinking of diversity is absolutely key. We're a diverse nation. We need to be able to be representative, particularly if 19% of the workforce is engineering. It's crazy that we don't have more of that. Mark made a really good point around engaging people young, and in like primary schools. We're going through a rapid development change with AI. Engineering is going to be involved more around cobots. I was in Berlin at a G20 event just earlier this week, and there's a lot of talk around those skills areas where people are going to have to reskill into areas in engineering and construction. I mean, we've covered construction before, but how can we engage people on reskilling, and how can blended learning help with that? Because there's going to be a lot of people that I can spit loads of data around, all sorts of stats that are coming out, but it's a huge amount of people that are going to have to reskill. Like, Mark, any sort of thoughts on how blended learning can help people, adult learners, to reskill into engineering?
Yeah, definitely. We deliver at Preston College. We deliver a blended learning adult model across some engineering programs, and automotive and construction, and that seems to be really popular, where the people do come in for a skills session, but the theory-based aspect is done in terms of a blended learning structured approach, where they've got access to at certain points to teachers online, but ultimately they're scheduled work each week, and they can conduct the theory side in terms of participate around their life. And that really does help for someone who has a job. This model's delivered with a skill session in the evening, so people can still participate in the job during the day and access further education at night. In terms of one night, we've reduced from 2 nights to 1 night, and we found participation and retention has increased because people can balance home life, a demanding career that they've got, stay in that career, but get the qualifications to transition. And that's what we've had that in operation for the last couple of academic years, and that has worked really well in terms of learner experience and people want that opportunity to flip into a different sector. And they're the sort of changes that can help someone who is in a job, who can't really get time off during the day, and they don't know where to go. So it makes it, I mentioned before, it's all about accessibility and giving that person, the tools to move in terms of socially and get that mobility right through and increase their earning potential. And I think that's how we look at that aspect. Going back to you, the changes in engineering, we deliver at T-level in engineering, design and development, and we frame that around the future needs of the industry. So we do a lot of work on modeling in terms of rendering software, programming, networking, and the future problems that we see. So whereas engineers, there'll be digital design engineers solving problems and networking, because a lot more automation, a lot more robotics, a lot more aspects in engineering are becoming fully automated in terms of manufacturing and and we've seen software develop, with artificial intelligence, develop a rate knots, all those things integrate into, the design and development program. And if you link that in with key problems around sustainability, net zero, young people are really hooked in and inspired because they can see the world needs change and some key problem solving.
Yeah, no, definitely. You're leading me into our next piece there, Mark. Ella, any thoughts from you around how to be able to engage? We've only got a couple of minutes left, but just maybe a quick sort of thought around how to engage adult learners who maybe want to upskill and cross-skill.
Yeah, I mean, which is exactly what Mark's doing at Preston College. Again, we've got a similar blended learning model whereby learners can go and do a unit from home to suit around their needs. But we're very conscious of ensuring that our learners are actively engaged as opposed to just sitting on a laptop and just doing it at 11 o'clock at night, etc. So we do tend to want to get them actively engaged, and we do have lots of virtual podcasts for them to look at, but also virtual AI reality stuff that they can also log on to and experience. So for example, we work quite closely with Focus XR, an AI platform whereby they've got lots of different units, and we just forward the units to students that's related to their units. For example, it could be, I don't know, a virtual welder, and they look into that to get actively engaged on that. But just going back into this blended learning model, what I will say is it's really important to actually engage with employers, because what we've seen at the Manchester colleges, I know engineering is evolving, is changing for the better, but it's our employers, is what's going around the landscape of and our local community employers, because obviously we're trying to upskill our learners, or actually teach our learners to go into the workforce, and what is it that the employers want from us. So most of our programs are co-designed by employers. We adopt and adapt our curriculum around what employers want, around their future skills, net zero, etc. So I would say it's really important with regards to blended learning, looking at what the employer, how to start meet with employer needs equally, because equally from employers, they need to upskill their workforce. What is it that they want to see? And we do a lot of work with employers to understand what is it that they want from teaching and learning in engineering at the Manchester College.
Yeah, definitely. It's got to be relevant and on point. It's about trying to build for those roles. There's so many questions I want to ask you. Like we've literally got like 2 minutes left. So can I give a minute each to Ella and Mark? We haven't touched really on net zero, green skills. If you would want to see one thing to better help increase the ability for people to better step into and to address net zero or green skills, Mark, what would you want that to be?
Yeah, I suppose there is a lot of good funding in terms of supporting, green skills. And of course, we deliver some through the UK Shared Prosperity Fund around green skills and, upskilling people to transition into net zero. We embed a lot of green skills curriculum in our engineering and in our construction apprenticeships as an added value. So I think for me, it's more awareness right down to primary level, secondary, around, in terms of what the future careers will look like. It's reform at probably secondary, primary school level to prepare the future skills needs. Net zero is not a climate goal, it's the skills revolution, and further education is a vehicle that can produce that and solve a lot of the future problems.
Yeah, 100%. Ella, we've got like a minute left.
Yeah.
What do you want to say? A minute for solving net zero.
Very quickly, totally agree with what Mark was saying, but to add to that, I would say, and again, what I've said before, including the employer into this in terms of what do you know about net zero? Because working with lots of employers, there are still lots of uncertainty about green skills, about net zero from our engineering employers. So I would say having that, bridging that gap, bridging that co-design liaison with employers, with education as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you, everyone, for today. Time is shot by. And I hope everyone who's watched online has found this really helpful. Mark, thank you. Ella, it was great. Tom, brilliant as always. So next week we're looking at empowering more FE learning. Join us on Thursday. We're going to be looking at hospitality. So we will see you next week. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me. Thanks. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.